Ugandans kind of lost hope. I'm talking about like regular Ugandans, not filmmakers. They lost hope in Ugandan films because of the production value. Some stories are really nice, but the production value turns people off. And that's why I felt like doing these short films, I would go a different route, have better production value, story. Ugandans like films that films are like, you know, and that's what I like too.
I'm from a beautiful place, the Pearl of Africa. Hailing with a 256, it's in my blood. That's a gem where the mountains rise. With stories untold, the tapestry of cultures unfolding, so vibrant and bold. A symphony of stars, a celestial light. The drums beating, echoing through the night, just like a beacon of light. A reflection that's coming up from the Nile. I'm flowing straight into the heart of Africa with timeless stories untold. Sup, dog?
3, 2, 1, let's go.
Welcome once again to the Ugandan Boy Talk Show, on the podcast where I bring the famous people, your regular people, anybody in the world that wants to come here and share their journey, their story, inspiration to anybody out there who is listening and watching. Welcome, Mr. Hakim, to the Ugandan Boy Talk Show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here today to share my stories, my inspirations, or any other thing that will be helpful to anybody watching.
You and I never met. We've never had a conversation except a WhatsApp conversation. But somebody recommended you to be on this podcast. You remember somebody who recommended you to be here?
Yeah, Rosemary. She's been on the show before. Yeah, she's a creative choreographer because I've been a dancer too as well. I've been a dancer for a while. I'm retired right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, our relationship with Rose comes from way back.
Can you pull it off if you had a chance to? If somebody attacks you, like, hey, sure. Mr. Hakim, I want to challenge you. You still have those moves you can pull off?
Yeah, I still do have those moves because it's something that I've kept doing low key. I didn't sign up to any dance crew or dance company, but I kept being around dance communities because I was part of the Ugandan dance community for a long time since I think. Since the mid-2000s. Yeah. And up to now, where I spend most of my life in the United States. I'm part of the Boston dance community. And we still get down. And one of the things that really surprised me from the dance perspective was being part of a competition early 2024. And I made it way to the finals, which I was so surprised. But a lot of young lads. Yeah. I was one of the oldest ones there, but I went to the finals and there was this young, amazing dancer from Peru who won. But I mean, I give her flowers because she dances every day. Life caught up with me, depending on who you're talking to and how someone will perceive that. But I don't dance on a daily, probably like 3 times in a day because I find it healthy. It's good for the body.
Now that answers my question because one of the follow-up questions I was going to do was I've noticed that you have collaborated with a lot of dancers, Dietrich, Antonio, Rosemary, Ewell, and actually all those have been guests on my podcast. I've had Dietrich, I've had Ewell, I've had Rosemary. So we've talked about dance on the podcast. So I was going to ask you why collaborating with those, but I think that answers the question that you a dancer yourself. So, and I've seen some episodes that you've been doing about their journey on Instagram where they share about their journey. So
right, and because I thought nobody had ever profiled dance artists from Uganda, so it's something that I did during the pandemic because there wasn't much. Because I wanted to start shooting serious films right after the pandemic or during the pandemic because I was often coming to Uganda for the most part. But that time, I thought it was a good time to start doing a series of dance artists, profiling them so people know who they are. Because more like something to command respect to dance artists in general. So I started those. But I mean, at some point, I was kind of burned out because, you know, depending on who you're talking to, some dancers didn't feel like it was a good thing for them because some of them I was just pushing. I was trying to get them to do it. It was free, but they didn't find value into it. The few that found value are the only ones that exist on those web series.
When I started the podcast too, I wanted to bring people's stories out, but a lot of people never found value in it, and I was like, okay, but I've been blessed that there's actually a lot of other people that want to be on it, so I don't really pay much attention to the people who don't want to. But that I can understand that, and I can see how somebody will think that way. But I never think anytime you get an opportunity to share about your journey, it's an opportunity that the world gets to know you, and the world, and you just bring opportunities to yourself. So I look at that as an opportunity. But among the collaborations that you've done, you've worked with GNL Zamba on a few music videos. You shot Saba Saba. Did you shoot that in Boston?
Yeah, I shot that in Boston. That's an interesting story. We actually shot 2 videos because GNL was part of the Ugandan hip hop community, which I was part of as well, because I was part of the Breakdance Project Uganda, which was a non-profit that used dance for positive social change at that time. They still exist, but I'm one of the founding members of that organization. They teach breakdance and a lot of other elements of hip hop. So GNL, we got to know each other from way back when we featured on his the first concert for his album. I forgot the name. Was it Koi Koi or something?
Koi,
so we were like, me and my team did some backup dancing for him at that time. Because at that time, we were good friends with Steve Jean, who runs Phenon Entertainment. Yeah. So he got us onto that concert. And I think Gino, from that time, he was always following me, seeing what I'm doing. And then he saw that I was doing some amazing, interesting video work. And he was based in LA at that time. So he hit me up. He was coming to, because I think his wife has foundation in Boston, I think. So he comes to Boston more often. So he reached out and we're like, yeah, sure, we could knock out 2 videos in 2 weekends. And I was privileged enough to be part of the Boston dance community. So producing that music video was an interesting part because there's so many pieces to put together, from producing, putting dancers together, also shooting in Boston itself, in the middle of Boston. That was during the pandemic, actually.
Oh, wow.
So it was easier to shoot in the streets. We could get away with a lot of stuff, There was so much going on, but it was an amazing experience. And I'm glad that that video did really well for him. It was part of his comeback to the Ugandan scene, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I think it really did well on his YouTube as well, because I gave it my all. I rarely do music videos, but once I do them, I give it my all. And usually there's usually something that makes me not do so many music videos is the fact that the way I relate, the way I collaborate with people, there has to be some type of connection, some chemistry.
Yeah.
And a good number of Ugandan artists, there's rarely that connection. Because a few of the others that I've worked with from the choreography and video perspective is Morris Kia. So just a few of them. Another one is Sandra Nankoma. So those are the few people that I've really connected. And these are people that I like to kind of like get that connection before we work on something. I like to understand the person. So not just the relation to be very transactional. I like the relation to be organic, so it can go even beyond the music video itself. Like I like the whole thing to be a success, as opposed to just taking your money and you get what I mean.
I watched the video myself and it was really cool, and you can see that the person who produced that put their thoughts in and the creativity, but also part of other people that you've worked with that have been on the podcast. Zion Kante featured in Boundary Mwisho, which we're going to talk about today, and the short film that you released. She's amazing, and she was on my podcast. She's a great person, radio presenter, actress, and she was just sharing her journey. Anyway, Mr. Hakim, on the podcast I have 3 segments that we go through. My first segment is this or that. You being in dancing and a film producer, a film actor, I came up with 5 questions that are this or that, and you're going to choose this or that. Directing or acting? Which one would you do?
Directing.
Okay.
And directing because with directing, there's more creative control from the perspective of different departments within that specific creation or project.
Yeah.
Because the fact that I have seen different levels of production, I've seen audio like sound design, camera operation, cinematography, acting itself. So I like to have more control over in the event that it's a project. I like to direct, because that brings out the entire overall end result of whatever it is.
Dance choreography or music video production? Which one would you do?
Ooh, okay, that's a tough one. Dance choreography or music video direction, did you say?
Production. Elevate your podcast game today. Are you looking for a perfect place to record your podcast in Kampala? Look no further. Danceoff Studios, located at Ivory Plaza on Wilson Street, Level 3, Room 4, is a perfect place for you. Danceoff Studios has professional recording equipment, comfortable and creative environment, expert for all your podcast needs. Book your session today. Find them on all social media platforms or reach out to them directly to secure your spot. Let them make your podcast dream a reality. Danceoff Studios, where stories come to life.
I'll take dance choreography.
Yeah.
Because with music videos, well, maybe just because I have more passion for dance than directing a music video itself. And probably that's why I have less music videos. I rarely chase them.
Yeah.
Honestly, unless if somebody really wants me to specifically work on that video, and then we can sit down and plan and all that stuff. But when it comes to dance choreography, that's something that I can still do because that means I can, if I come across very creative dance artists that have amazing skills and talent, I think I have the skills to make them produce something that is interesting to watch.
Right.
More like use what they have to create something beautiful. It is something that I've done with video as well, with dance videos in the past. So yeah, dance choreography over music video direction because I love to dance. Yeah.
Emotional storytelling or action-packed sequences?
Oh yeah. Action-packed. Honestly, I like intensity, and it's one of the things that I'm trying to kind of like bring I wouldn't call it a fresh breath of air to the film industry in Uganda, but something different, a different touch to the films in Uganda. I want to make people love Ugandan films. And that's why I would prefer to go with the action sequences, because action sequences come with a bit of choreography. It takes me back to the dance. Right? You choreograph these sequences that people can repeat, and there's continuity when people are watching. And it's interesting to watch fellow Ugandans do those sequences. So I would pick action to emotional. Of course, emotional to a certain degree, but mostly action. Because through action, you can easily embed some emotional bits here and there.
Before I asked you that question, I knew you were going to pick action-packed because watching Building 62 and then Boundary and Mwisho, they're all kind of like action-packed and some intensity, even on set. It was all cool to watch. Long films or short films?
Yeah. Okay, that's am I allowed to say to be in the middle?
Yeah, you're allowed.
So when you say short films or long films, do you mean like to watch or to make?
To make.
Okay. Long feature films. That's what I would pick here, because short films, I would say, are more like a foundation to build portfolio, and there isn't a monetary value. There isn't. Ideally, you rarely make money off short films, and if you do, it's not that much money.
Right.
It's hard to recoup depending on how you plan your project. But I would prefer long form films, feature films, because with those, with the right plan, marketing plan, distribution plan, you can get some good money out of it. And I think that's the next level that I'm going to take on.
Building 62, what was the thoughts behind making that short film?
Building 62 itself was inspired by the situation, the things that happen in our society. There's a lot of impunity, I would say, in Uganda. And it happens a lot that if you have certain things that are going to expose the authorities, it's very easy for you to be taken down. A lot of these things happen in the background, even though they don't make it to the news. But there's so many crazy stories that you cannot even make a film out of as we speak right now. You can't, because you'll be in a lot of trouble. So I made it very fictional in a way so that I'm not pointing out that, oh, I don't know, this government or that government. It's more like government agents, trying to bring down this girl whose dad is a war veteran from Somalia that had certain secrets that, he got killed, and they have to hunt her down before she gets access to this stuff. And the key to that stuff is what she's wearing in her necklace. And she didn't even know. So I kind of give it a very fictional touch to the film so that it's not directly hitting to anybody, but these kind of things, because I got a response from somebody who said that really happened. And this is after the film, mind you. They told me something very close to that really happened to a cousin, but until now, it's still low key. It's never come out because of the, people are worried that, people are scared for their lives to say these things because there's state involved. There's a state involved. So I like kind of stories like that in relation to crime, controversy, conflicts, and anything in the impunity space.
December 28th, you blessed us with Boundary Mwisho. I've watched it twice. I rewatched it last night because I watched it the day it came out, and I rewatched it last night to just freshen my brains up because I wanted to have a conversation about it. I wish it was longer because 22 minutes, I think it was like 22 minutes went by so quick. I was like, I want more. Yeah. It was really cool. Yeah. But what inspired you to create Boundary Mwisho, and what message were you trying to bring out through that story?
So again, I would say the inspiration behind Boundary Mwisho, the last boundary, was from a friend. There's a friend. So it's two things. One, the crazy impunity that happens in the country. Two, a friend of mine whose husband donated a kidney last minute. This is a friend of mine. Her name is Esteri Tebandeke. She's an actor, amazing actor, and also a director as well. I was on set with her. She was shooting a film for Mnet, one of those Mnet commissioned films right after the pandemic, and I was a DP on her film. And I mean, she had a situation. She was in a good health stand. And as we're shooting, it started unfolding. She wasn't feeling well. At some point, other people, she got some help with directing. And then after that, the whole year 2023, I think, there was a big, huge fundraiser to have her flown to India for a transplant. They were looking for a donor for a while. The donor was not there. And then it happens. For some reason, there was this God, I think God was on her side, that the husband was a match. They flew to India. They were able to fundraise a lot of money because she's an amazing actor. She's a good person. And then everything worked out. The transplant happened. No rejection. And I was like, wow, because I saw everything unfold. Actually, the husband, Sam Tebandeke, was supposed to be my producer for Building 62. I really wanted him to produce the film, but he couldn't do it because I was still in India and all that stuff. And after Building 62, I looked back and I was like, wow, this is an interesting story. And Esther, and I think in the credits, I think you can see their names, special thanks. she told me a lot about kidney transplant. She told me about how things work, the operation. Of course, there's no way I could nail it 100%, but I tried.
Yeah.
So she advised accordingly. She's one of the people that saw the film before it came out. And she told me, she advised accordingly. But that was one of the inspirations because I found it really strong for a husband to donate a kidney. And it's a match, which is really, it's unheard of. And, and everything worked out. She's alive. She's fine. And the other inspiration was the fact that there's a lot going on in our country. I'm thinking on a global scale, the whole illegal organ trade, organ market. And I've heard, I'm not sure, but that in the hospitals, it happens a lot. It's a big business, a booming business. So combining both things to create a fictional story that is interesting to watch got me to that film. And hence that title, and giving it a bit of Swahili to it and a bit of local languages to make it more interesting.
In the title itself, like boundary Mwisho, like the last boundary, was there anything behind to the title that you picked that specific title?
Yes, because if you look at the main character, the lead, the situation in which he was, the inciting incident where he gets to know that the sister needs a kidney. But at the same time, his bosses have sent him to pick up a kidney for a very important client, because this client is Russian, according to the film. He's a Russian client, probably his high profile client. You get what I mean? So the lead has to make this tough decision. And there's this boundary you can't cross because the bosses are dangerous, because that space is very deadly. Even you look at, I've seen a few documentaries, mostly in South America, Latin America. There's a lot of that stuff, and people that deal in this stuff don't play. There's guns involved. There's, people get killed. If you try to stand in their way, it's, you could easily lose your life. So that's why I thought of that name, The Last Boundary. And at the same time, there were other titles from other films that had the last. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to make this other hybrid of a name and make it the dominant, and just have this as a small, for the international audience to understand what it means. You want to kind of create that balance, have a bit of the local people feel that thing. I understand people in Uganda don't speak a lot of Swahili, but I've studied Swahili myself at university. So I had to look up these names literally so I don't conflict with, because some filmmakers, before they make films, they forget to look up if that name exists. So it took me some time to look up, so I don't collide. So it's a standalone name, Boundary Mwisho, The Last Boundary. So,
I loved that. And even your character, Zion Kante, because I know she's fluent in Swahili, so it was a good pick for that.
Now, speaking of her role, I'm going to say something a little about her role. And I think I hadn't made this public yet. Her role, there were like 3 people that I had in mind. There were like 3 people that were going to take that role. The first one that I had in mind was Natasha Sinayobe, Tasha. Yeah, but I was trying to reach out, but for some reason, probably I had the wrong number. And then there was another one. She's of Indian descent. And with that one, it didn't work out for certain reasons, agreements and all that stuff. And then somebody told me, there's this other amazing actor. Her name is Zion. And, I jumped on a call real quickly. And we spoke, and she asked me a few questions because she had to be sure that what she's getting into is like legit, So we had a few conversations. She read the script. She liked it immediately. And the rest is history. She nailed it. She did a great job, I would say.
What has been the feedback you've got from the audience after watching this film? What are some of the people think about it?
Some people are in disbelief that this is a Ugandan production.
I was one of them.
By a Ugandan actors, Ugandan crew, that's huge. A Ugandan crew, and I'm very thankful that these people really believed in me. And it's the same crew that I worked with on Building 62. I just added a few more people. And I'm glad that the time I started to do these short films after the pandemic. It was the same time when the Ugandan film industry was going through a boom, the Pal Magic boom, the DSTV, because DSTV was commissioning a lot of TV series at that time. Sanyu is one of them, the Prestige, I think, and a few others. So that time, there's so many people that got into production that got a bit of experience in how productions run. So it made it easy for me to speak to these people, and they understood what I wanted. The camera operators themselves were open to learn new things, because the way we shot these films is unusual to the way people shoot films in Uganda. And they had to kind of like have an open mind on how to operate certain cameras, because there's certain rules that people live by in production, more like, oh, never take the camera off the tripod. Don't do it. But I'm like, okay, depending on the situation, depending on the scene, depending on the mood, I don't think we should keep the camera on the tripod. We want to portray a certain feeling in a certain scene. So we're going to go different routes depending on what the story is demanding. So they were really, really understanding, and they believed in me. And when I came back with Boundary Mwisho, they were like, yeah, let's go,
For me, I went to go dig deeper. Any behind the scene that was put on the internet, I went to watch it. Like, how did they pull off that move? How did they pull off this angle? How did they do this? And there's a few things I learned that I've seen movies, but I don't know how they do it. And I was able to see that. Yeah,
right. And also, I would like to mention that sometimes filmmakers, and this goes to fellow filmmakers, or rather even like regular people, it's not all about how big your camera is, because the cameras that I've used on these two projects are very basic, small, mirrorless cameras. You understand? So it's just I have this deep love for gear and tech, and that contributed to my planning of this film, understanding what I have and how best I can use it, and also from the writing perspective, writing what I think would be possible in my means, financially, and also in terms of gear that I have, because I use my own gear, which the camera operators and everyone that worked on set were flexible to work with, however small they are. But this is something that people overlook. They think it has to be like a very huge, maybe an Arri or a Red camera, but these are basic. And I still look forward to using those other high-grade, high-end cameras for projects moving forward as well. But the size of the camera you have shouldn't limit you to make whatever story you want to make it. So I think that's something that everybody needs to know.
I know there's a child there who wants to be a movie producer, who wants to look up, and they never get this opportunity to hear these words, but once they keep themselves on the internet or like listen to your journey, it will inspire them. And what you just said there will help put some pressure off the people, because they might think they need the best cameras to do a movie or to do something. But here you say you can just start with what you have. And I know shooting in Uganda, doing a movie, not even Uganda, there's challenges that come with it. What was your main challenge while filming this film, Boundary Mwisho?
So Boundary Mwisho, the biggest one of all was hospitals. And I think I've mentioned it in one of the videos on YouTube. Yeah. Hospitals were like, oh my God, because here's the thing. Because I feel like if a hospital, if you feel, because the storyline is what put them off for the most part, I won't mention what hospitals, but most big ones, the usual suspects. When I say the usual suspects of hospitals in Kampala, everyone knows those ones. We went there. Some of them made me even write, an application, like a proposal, a kind of proposal. And some of them even accommodated me. They were like, let's listen to what this guy is saying. But it was more, for some hospitals, it was more of like, do it to our interest, in our interest than your interest. More like, is your film going to market the hospital or not? Right. And me, I was like, this is a story that is, could put Uganda out there on the map. Like, it's an interesting story and I'm going to pay for the space. Right. But they, once they got to know the storyline, I was like, okay, well, you have rejected my proposal Is it because you seem to be receptive, but when they hear the storyline, they're like, nope. And which kind of got me thinking, I'm like, okay, does that mean, is what they're saying true? You know? Anyway, speculation. I don't want to be held against what I say, but that's speculation. But yeah, hospitals was the biggest challenge because the hospital in which we were able to pull off some of the scenes was a hospital all the way down in Kasangati. It was a hospital that didn't care. They were like, how much you getting us? You know? Yeah. And then we were able to do actually a secret. Spoiler alert for those who haven't watched. We use the same hospital. It's not two different hospitals. It's the same hospitals, just playing around with different rooms, you know, and making everything look like it's two different places. So that hospital, as long as they were just honest enough to ask not to put the name of the hospital in the film, so they don't get into trouble, you know, because someone could easily portray or could easily put that on that hospital. You get what I mean? The other one was with locations in general, because what happens with the whole DSTV boom, where there was so many people doing TV series, a lot of people approached different locations, and those locations got the assumption that whoever comes to shoot films in a specific space, they have DSTV money they have multi-choice money and stuff. And some of us are independent. We save up this money for a bit, and we're trying to keep everything low in the budget. So people were putting prices way too high, you know, and I had my location manager, and he was always the one talking to them, but they would kind of switch their eyes to me because they're kind of seeing, they're like, who is this person? They look like they, you know, however much I try to dress differently, you know, like a local. And then the other one is trying to have everything done in a few days, for the most, like the shortest time possible. Because I spend the most time in the United States, but I still love my country. And I like to do so many amazing things for my country. I like my country. I'm kind of like so tired of seeing, it doesn't happen a lot, but big studios coming to Africa and coming to Uganda and doing Ugandan stories based on what they want those stories to look like, or whether based on how they want those stories to sell, you know, because they're trying to sell them out there, right? And then as Uganda, there's many of us who are in the diaspora, and I feel like Uganda needs us to kind of add a piece to this puzzle to make Uganda proud. And that's why, you know, I often come to Uganda and do some stuff that looks different, and I'm still going to be doing it. When
I sat down to watch Bonder and Mwisho, I was like, now this is what it is. And like a few people that gave me the feedback of that movie was like, somebody invested their time in it, and the actors did a great job. Everybody was like into it.
One of the other feedbacks that I got, of course, it's not all bread and butter. Some of the feedback, some of which I welcome, because if you don't accept some criticism, then you're not going to grow. You're not going to, like from the story perspective, some people felt like the story still needed some time to be developed, which I agree, because I wrote it very quickly, and I shared it with a few people who gave me feedback because there was enough time, because I wanted to loop up from building 62 quickly. So people don't think I'm a one-hit wonder, because it's easy for people to assume that, he just did one. That's all, you know. So I want people to love Ugandan films. You understand? So I was able to write really quickly, and people told me the story needed some time to be developed. Of course, there's certain things I would have done better. I got some feedback from some professional surgeons, people I went to school with, that they gave me like an 80, which was amazing. They told me, in the operation, this should have been that, this should have been that. That's not how they transport a kidney. But in the dark world, they're going to do any means as long as it works, right? And as a writer, I'm still a work in progress. I'm still learning. I haven't made it. I'm not that person who's like, oh, this is it. I'm still learning. I learn things from the crew itself, even though they see like I know more, but there's certain things I learn from them and they learn from me. So it's an exchange as we shoot.
What has been the most rewarding part of creating this film?
Most rewarding part is appreciation. The love I'm getting from the love that we, I won't say just me, the love we are getting from the fans, the few people that have watched. They're really appreciating. It's very, I would say, motivation to go out there, create more, and give people something longer, a feature film, 1 hour plus, or a series. But then it all goes back to the budgets. And it takes me back to the reason that's why I do these short films. One of the reasons to attract people that are ready to invest in film, because film is very expensive. Mm-hmm. It gets very, very expensive because it's 22 minutes, but it costs me quite a bit. Especially when it comes even to the music, the scoring, the sound design. That's another monster by itself. Mm-hmm. It's very expensive. And in the company Quad A, I'll give them their flowers. I've worked with them twice on Building 62 and on Boundary Mwisho. They put in the time. I think in Uganda, they're really like, when it comes to film sound design, audio post-production, which a lot of filmmakers underlook, mm-hmm. they're like top-notch because they work with Nigerian filmmakers as well. You know, they have a big client base in Nigeria as well. So they do something on an international level. They've also worked on Lukman's films. I don't know if you know Lukman Ali.
Lukman Ali,
yeah. He's an amazing filmmaker. He's one of those dudes that had first film on Netflix, and most of those films that he makes too. And I was watching Lukman's film. I'm like, oh, this is interesting, you know? And I'm also one of those people adding to the growth of the Ugandan film industry, collaborating with Quad A to produce this sound, because I think sound plays 50% on a film. Yeah. So doing these short films, put them out there, a few people to come on board. I've had so far from Building 62, I've had 2 people jump on board that want to invest if I'm to work on a feature. And I'm expecting more people to jump on board to invest in upcoming projects that I do intend to work on. But one of the other feedbacks that I get, people are saying that probably series speak more to me. Like I would be good at doing series because of the cliffhangers, like leaving people hanging. What's next, right? So that's what I'm looking at as we speak.
I think I would love the series, like, because you left me hanging, and it's a good thing when you're able to catch the attention of the person watching to wanting more. I think it's a positive feedback. If you could revisit any part of the filmmaking process of Boundary Mwisho or any film, would you change anything?
Yeah, because based on some feedbacks I've gotten from some DPs, director photographies, cinematography is for context, director of photography is the same as cinematographer. So one of the cinematographers told me something. There's an opening scene where there's 2 people. One is more powerful, one is a subordinate. I feel like if I was to go back, I would make Zion elevated, like on a higher level, and probably shoot where we see she's above and this guy is down, right? I put them on the same level. It's something that I didn't think about because with these short films, the fact that I'm on a low budget, I have a small crew, so I'm trying to multitask so many things at the same time. So some things just swing by me without knowing, and I see them in post, and I'm like, ah. But then in conversation, I try to use music, tension, the zoom ins, you know, making Zion just herself in the frame, and her looks were like played, kind of like compensated for the you know. The other thing would be I think the operation, the scene where the operation was happening, and most of these are from the visual perspective, because through visuals, sometimes that's how you make people feel a certain way, right? I would probably get something of the doctor themselves with a light like on the top here, and we're just seeing his eyes. We were not seeing because this is his sister, right? We at least if we could see his eyes, what he was, you know. Yeah, if I were to go back, it's mostly from the photography perspective, from the cinematography perspective. Yeah, I would probably do a better job. But again, I learned. Yeah.
I mean, I might have seen it just in a regular person view, but maybe people who have actually studied these things, people who observe to details, they can see some other things different. But again,
yeah. Actually, you know what's funny? I just wanted to say this real quick as I've forgotten. One of the feedbacks. There's somebody that told me, could you take out that whole operation thing? It doesn't add anything to the story. I'm like, oh God, that thing, there's always this position in which we get as directors or creatives where there's something we really love to be in the film.
Yeah.
But then again, it doesn't add to the story. And I was thinking, okay, people were thinking Building 62 was really short. If I take this scene out, it will kind of mess up with the story. And also the film will be shorter, right? So what I did, I just made the operation scene, it was a bit longer. So I squashed it down to something like under a minute, I think.
Yeah, I think it was.
But I felt like, I was like, oh my God, this is... And it made sense. It was like, no, it doesn't add anything to the story. But then what happens after would also lose meaning, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it gets tough with certain feedback. But
I feel like, and at the end of the day, we love feedbacks, but then sometimes you have to just stick to your, like, okay, I appreciate that, but I'm going to stick to this. But yeah, and it's good to listen to all feedback. At the end of the day, you still have to make that decision. Where do you think the Uganda film, I know you touched a little bit about it, but like, in your own opinion, where do you think you guys are?
We could do better, but I would say it's promising. Where we are is promising because a few years ago, I would say maybe 10 years ago or 7 years ago, we didn't have a big number of people in production the way it is right now. There's more people in production. There's more people that are interested in acting because there's so many people that have reached out to me that really want to act. But again, I don't have a solution for everyone. It's not like I have this hub where all actors are collected and there's films that are coming up. I wish I did, right? So more people getting interested. And that's the goal, because if more filmmakers bring a fresh breath of air to the industry, more Lukmans, more people like me, more Mwisho's, more, name it, more people come, because I think we're in a good space right now. It's promising with the whole DSTV Power Magic thing that has been booming in the past few years. And also, I've heard that there's a platform called Canal Plus that acquired, do they call it acquire or buying DSTV and then Showmax as well, all at the same time. Those are coming up with bigger things for the film industry because more people are involved. We could do better, but I think if more people like me come up and add those pieces to the industry, that would help the industry. I mean, 10 years from now, it's going to get way better. Yeah, we're going to get more films to hopefully Prime, Amazon, more films to Netflix, more films to Tubi. People forget there's Tubi.
I watch Tubi all the time. Yeah.
There's so many platforms out there and they're looking for African content. That's why Netflix came to Africa. Netflix came to, of course, they're mostly in West Africa and also in Nairobi as well. They're looking out for content, and that's why I feel like it's promising. People shouldn't lose hope. And I feel like Ugandans should support Ugandan films more because, like, here's the thing. Ugandans kind of lost hope. I'm talking about like regular Ugandans, not filmmakers. They lost hope in Ugandan films because of the production value. Some stories are really nice, but the production value turns people off. And that's why I felt like doing these short films, I would go a different route, have better production value, story. Ugandans like films that films are like, and that's what I like too.
The other thing I'll add to that, Ugandans like action packs, so it's a good place that you went for action packs for that.
Right. So part of my job is to make them alike, bring them back, use that to bring them back. And hopefully in the future, if I do feature films, do a full premiere, drag everybody to the cinema. I would like to see Uganda have Ugandan films run in the cinema for multiple weekends, not just one weekend, because it happens, of course. Like one weekend and then the cinema sees like, this is not bringing money. And then they scrap it, right? Because that has happened. But I would like Ugandans to enjoy Ugandan films on a constant, film running for 2 months. Yeah. By the time it's done with the cinema, it has like a streaming deal, right? So we have our own box office kind of film culture and stuff.
I'm really proud of you guys, the work you're doing, and in every industry in Uganda, I see growth, be it music, be it film, and now podcasting is also starting in Uganda. People are picking that up, and it's doing like really well. I like to see that growth. Again, Hakim, I'm thankful that we were able to have this conversation about film, about things that are going on in Uganda. Is there anything that I did not ask you that you want to share before we wrap this up?
Yeah. So this one thing that I would say is some people have asked me that, why don't you produce films in the United States instead?
I actually had that. I was going to ask you that question. Yeah.
Like, why don't you do films in the US? I'm like, okay, here's the thing. The US, I would say, is oversaturated. Like, you can't beat those guys at their game. That's their own game. I mean, I've done one film, I think a short film, and I think end of 2023, there was a film. It really did well. I was a cinematographer on that film. It was a first-time director. It really did well. He's so happy. That's the only film I've worked on. I've worked on also other film sets where I'm not the director, and I see how things play out. I'm like, it would make more sense if I come back home and do films that are based in Uganda and help the Ugandan industry grow, as opposed to doing American films. Of course, I could still do them, of course, for the money. But when it comes to Africa, Africa needs me. Uganda needs me. Uganda needs my skill sets, right? And if I collaborate with other Ugandans to put this out there, and also me as a person, career-wise, I think I would shine more if I'm based from Africa. More like a strategic thing. If I'm based in Africa and African films shine, then it's easy for me to cross to the world. Just like how most Afrobeats people, like Davido, who was based in, Miami or something. He would have gone with rap music, but he decided to go back home. There's a lot of power home, so that's why.
And that's the thing too. Like when I was starting my podcast, like I didn't want to do, because in America there's a lot of podcasts. You can't beat the podcast in America. But my vision was like, let me go back home, pick up these stories, bring these stories to the world, so people can know what Ugandans are capable of doing. Like we also do these things back home, and just bring the knowledge of that. But yeah, no, that's the point. Like I want to share our own stories and just uplift our own people. We're almost coming to the end of this recording, and my last segment is rapid fire. So rapid fire is where I ask you questions and you just give me the first answer that comes to your head.
Okay, let's go.
What's the most challenging scene you've ever directed?
Building 62 fight scene, the last fight scene.
I saw those scenes of like people fighting and with a gun, and especially the one that were in the room and just going on the wall. Yeah, tense.
And there was no bullets on set, but
yeah, there was no bullets on set, but like I saw that clip of like
yeah.
Your all-time favorite filmmaker?
I would say Martin Scorsese.
Okay, I don't think I know him, but
yeah, he's one of those. Yeah, but he's there's a list of like there's an Ivy League of directors. So he's like number 5 there.
A film genre that you've always wanted to explore?
Action thriller.
Action thriller. Of course. Yeah. One word to describe Boundary Mwisho.
Intense.
Yeah,
just one. Intense.
Yeah, I was gonna go with it. I was not blinking. I was like just waiting for the next. What's happening next? I like those movies.
Speaking of intense, me myself, before I let it out to the world, I watch it as I code switch to a regular person. If it makes me feel that way, and I'm like, yeah.
The final one, the best advice you've ever received in a film industry?
Stay humble.
Stay humble. Yeah.
However big of whatever you make, stay cool.
That's a good advice, and not only in the film industry, but it goes on to like a lot of things in life. Just stay humble, no matter how much you achieve, no matter how much you get, no matter where you get. Just stay humble, because life is funny. All that goes away. And
things get to people's heads.
Hakim, now I have final 3. It looks like I have a lot of segments on my podcast, but this is the final 3 questions I ask people before I let them go off the podcast. What's a life lesson you've learned in life to this point?
Whatever you have in life, it's all from the Creator. I'm a God-fearing person. It's all from God, so we don't have to change just because of what we have or what we acquire. Because end of the day, we're not going to live forever.
Also.
So the lesson I learned in short is that let's try to stay true to ourselves as much as we can and not be overwhelmed with the things, the material things that we acquire as human beings.
I like that. What gets you excited about life?
Life is what you make it. If you decide to respond to negative energy around you all the time, you're going to live a miserable life.
Yeah, that's true.
But if you decide to find peace in yourself and try to respond to positive energy for the most part, life is what you make it,
My final question, which is a signature question on the podcast, is who would you like to see on this podcast next as a guest? And you're going to help me connect me to that person.
Alan Kutos is an actor.
Okay.
Yeah. I know, might sound, cliche that, it's because you work with Alan, blah, blah, blah. But he used to be a dancer as well, way back. Because I have a long-time relationship with him from way back, even before he was an actor.
Okay.
And he's an interesting, good human being, I would say. And I would like him to share his story as well.
Okay.
And I see he has like a bright acting future. That's what I would say.
One question I did not ask you: did you ever participate in what is our competition that Rosemary were part of, an Antonio dance on NTV, whatever?
Step Up. I think it was like Hot Steps.
Hot Steps. Did you ever go in Hot Steps or no?
No. I was so much in the background actually at that time, because I think Antonio was one of the first people in Hot Steps. And then when he came from Hot Steps, he joined me and Abdu, the guy that was in the film. We started a company called Table Floor Dance Company. At that time, it was the thing. And then when Rosemary came from Hot Steps and some other lady called VCV, that we welcomed them as the only females on the crew, which was kind of cool because we started off as a breaking crew, like b-boy and stuff. Yeah. And then we shifted to hip hop and other styles. And then the clients were like, do you guys have some girls? And then we knew, somebody knew Rosemary and VC. So we brought them along as what do you call that? Contractors, temporary members for some time. Like some shows we have them, some shows we don't have them. But I would say VC, Antonio, Rosemary were the Hot Steps kids doing Hot Steps at that time. Me, no. I was always in the background. I was like the guy. I never wanted lights. This is the first time I'm coming out into the world and saying things, and it's a bit intimidating.
Yeah, when we're talking. Anyway, thank you very much for being on the podcast. I appreciate the words and the message you've sent out. Hopefully you will inspire a lot of young kids who are looking into film and filmmaking with your words and your journey and your films that you put out. We can't wait for more.
I hope. Yep. Thank you for having. Thank you.
Hey there, my name is Bonnie Chibuka, the podcast host of the Ugandan Boy Talk Show. Thanks for watching and listening to my podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. Also, leave a feedback on this podcast because that's how we grow. Thank you very much and be blessed.
Hello, everybody. My name is Hakim. I'm a filmmaker, producer, director, and I'm here on the Ugandan Boy Talk Show, talking about film in Uganda, producing, directing, and one of my recent films, which is on YouTube. And we're going to have fun talking about film in general.
Elevate your podcast game today. Are you looking for a perfect place to record your podcast in Kampala? Look no further. Downsoft Studios, located at Ivory Plaza on Wilson Street, Level 3, Room 4, is a perfect place for you. Downsoft Studios has professional recording equipment, comfortable and creative environment, expert for all your podcast needs. Book your session today. Find them on all social media platforms or reach out to them directly to secure your spot. Let them make your podcast dream a reality. Downsoft Studios, where stories come to life.